Well, let's move on to number 8. Who is your number 1 preferred pick at number 8 in like a realistic scenario? And then who are 2 other names that you'd also consider if that player's off the board?
This one is a little more challenging because I feel like it could really go any direction here. Because the guys between like 5 and 13 constantly move up and down, up and down. So it's like shooting into an empty cavern kind of to see who would be available here. But um, I think I think I go Cody Williams, Jude. I like his versatility. Again, it immediately addresses defense, which for me, I said at the very beginning of all of these draft discussions, this is my first need the Spurs should address is defense, defense, defense. And then we can worry about shooting later. That's just my personal opinion. But our defense was so atrocious. And we have a lot of guys that aren't physically gifted like naturally at that position. So Cody Williams is that. Sure, he's extremely raw. He's a project guy, but taking a Stephon Castle or a Reed Shepard at 4, because both of those guys are NBA
Yes.
ready, allows us to take a little bit more time with this second pick. And if Cody Williams works out, if he is any kind of resemblance of his brother who plays for Oklahoma City, then he immediately replaces Mr. Champagny as our starting small forward. And if we were to have an offensive lineup of Castle, Devin Vassell, Cody Williams, Jeremy Sohan, Victor Wembanyama, that is an elite defensive core. And even if you want to take Castle out and put Reed Shepard in there, still elite defensive core. And that's immediately addressed. Sure, shooting is a concern, as always, with some of these guys that are extremely raw like this. But I think his shot is not broken. It is fluid. It's just a little bit slow. He can speed that release up, more reps. That's something that I'm not concerned with at all. Because like there's some guys with jump shots, it's like sure, it needs a little tweaking. I would put Jeremy in that conversation. Like we knew he wasn't going to be a shooter
Mhm.
right off the bat, and nor is he going to be a sniper in his career. But he can be capable. I think Cody Williams has the tools and the jump shot to become a sniper if he puts the work in. Obviously, that's a big caveat, but I think he has the character and somebody that can definitely get to that point.
Yes. I don't want to interrupt you
You're
before
good.
you go into your next guys, but I just want to touch on a couple things about Cody Williams. Because
Please.
remember a while back, we kind of talked about his shooting conundrum, if you will. I talked about that with Lou. I had heard that on like the Low Post or some NBA draft podcast, excuse me, whether it was The Ringer or ESPN or whoever.
Hmm.
Um, but actually, he did an interview with Kevin O'Connor recently,
Hmm.
just kind of, and they asked him about that. And here's the thing, like he did shoot 40+%. I think it was like 41%.
Hmm.
Um, his attempts were like 1.8, so it wasn't that many.
He only
But
shot
the
wide open. Yeah.
Right, but the other thing is that teams were pressuring him a lot too. So he
Sure.
didn't get to take like it's like they knew he had a good jump shot. They game planned that in that caused him to, drive inside a little bit more. He talked about that with Kevin O'Connor. The other thing is they had guys like KJ Simpson, Tristan Da Silva on that team too, who are also solid shooters. So they were like, we're gonna make these guys beat us, even though they ended up also being good shooters before we let Cody Williams do it. So there was a lot of game plan stuff that tied in to him not taking as many shots. He feels like he can, prove that 40% is not a fluke, basically, on more attempts. And the other thing that I've been hearing is in a lot of his workouts, I believe it was in his Lakers workout specifically. Now, I don't
Hmm.
know if the Lakers are even going to be, I don't think they're going to have a chance to pick him. But during his Lakers workout in Los Angeles, he really impressed with his shooting ability off the dribble, and
Hmm.
just catch and shoot situations. It's the point I'm trying to get at here is it seems like as time has progressed, his shooting to me at least has only seemed to be less of a concern.
For sure, for sure. And I don't know what podcast you listen to, but I heard one as well where he was told not to shoot by his
Yes,
coach, but like he can shoot. Like for some reason
that
that
was
was
a game plan thing. Yeah.
correct. So that tells me again he's a winner because he's willing to do whatever it takes to do whatever his coach wants him to do to win. I don't actually know what Colorado's record was, so that could have been a complete lie. But
They
regardless,
had a pretty decent season. They
okay,
have 3 NBA guys, I'm pretty
good,
sure.
good, thank God. Um, just to name my other two guys real quick, that if Cody Williams is not available at 8, I go back and forth for my next two options. I really could go either way. It's between Tejan Salon. Forgive me if I said his first name wrong. I always get it wrong. Tejan Salon and Dalton Connect. for Dalton Connect, I think the opportunity is pretty obvious. He's an older guy, immediately NBA ready. He's got a good frame, 6'5", long. He'll be a capable defender right off the bat. He's not going to be a crazy defender like Stephon Castle, but he can stay in front of guys probably a little bit better than Julian Champagny can at this point. And you can either start him and he can be a 3-and-D shooter, or you can put him off the bench and just let him be an absolute bucket because he's a bucket getter for Tennessee. He can score at all three levels, and he can help Keldon Johnson off the bench. And then Tijan Salon, another really raw prospect, but 6'9". He could play 4 or 3, maybe even a small ball 5. I'm not really sure, but he's the guy that you're super high on. And honestly, the way you explain his game is what keeps me so high on him. But he's incredibly raw, extremely versatile, athletic, eats up space, makes the right play, and he's French. So might as well, like I said, I'm open to maybe making this number 8 pick a project player, and this I think is what that would be.
The sentiment that you just said at the end there is kind of exactly how I feel about it, number 8, because I think, like as we just discussed, regardless of how number 4 turns out, it's going to be Reed or it's going to
Mhm,
be Stephon. Those guys are going to be NBA ready coming in. So that kind of allows you, kind of like you and or excuse me, or yeah, I and Lou talked about,
mhm.
how we can kind of play off the picks depending on,
Right.
how it ends up unfolding. And you were right on the money there, Ethan. I have the same 3 players. I just have them in a different order.
I
No,
figured.
my number 8 is Tijan Salon.
Mm,
Um, he's the youngest out of all 3 of those guys. Actually,
sure.
the youngest player that it could be a potential first round prospect, not the youngest player in the draft, just the youngest potential prospect listed as a first round guy. Um, and his upside. That's really what it comes down to. Honestly, it all comes down to his frame, which ties into his upside, the
Mhm,
flashes he's shown, and his shooting ability. The shooting ability is the thing. Yes, the percentage isn't crazy. I think it's like 34%. But if you go watch his highlights, you're going to see a bunch of catch and shoot jumpers, way
mhm,
more than you expect. That's how it went for me. And honestly, a lot of them from like, I don't know the exact feet range to call it, but like near logo threes where he's just like pulling up. And I don't want to exaggerate that too much. That's why I said the key word is near logo threes. I'm just saying he has some range. It's not like, he's not going to be able to shoot if he's not like, an inch from the 3-point line.
mm,
Um, so when you come in with shooting potential and catch and shoot potential specifically, to be a potential 3, or as we've talked about, Ethan, on this channel, I kind of see him, if he were to be picked by the Spurs, I see him as more of a 4, just
mhm,
because of the openness of that roster spot, as well as CD Sissoko potentially coming in and taking some minutes at the 3. And maybe I don't know if they have any prior relations, both being from France. Maybe they do. We know him and Wemby do, obviously, because of their sisters. But Tijon, man, I I don't want to repeat myself from everything that I've said in the prospect breakdown that we've already done. Y'all can go
uh-huh,
check that out. But I think the shooting ability, the defensive mobility and potential there, the flashes that he's shown driving to the rim because of his size and frame, being able to finish through contact. I think everything inside the arc has potential to be developed on top of the frame. And the other thing that stands out to me that gives me confidence with that, Ethan, and I know we've already talked about this, but I'm going to say it again, is his dribble. When I watch his dribble, he's not dribbling up to his chest. I'm not saying he's going to be crossing people over or anything like that, but I think that honestly, I mean, it's the French league, but from what I see, like it almost feels like already coming into the league, he's got a tighter dribble than a Jeremy Sohan.
mm.
Um,
I would
and
agree.
really, I'm not, that's not to try to make some point on his playmaking ability. I'm just saying when he can blow past people, or drive around guys, put his shoulder into them, it's not like he's just going to lose the ball and it's going to be an automatic turnover.
Mm,
There's going to be adjustments coming into the league. He's a very raw player. He's definitely a prospect, but I just really have faith that with the comments I've heard about him from Wemby, the seamless kind of positional fit on our roster and the shooting ability, I feel like we can develop the defense, even though that's not even in a bad place to start with. And we can develop all of the stuff, inside the arc. And
mhm,
really, when we think about his role on the team, Ethan, are we really going to be demanding Tijon Salon, especially if we draft a Reed Shepard or a Stephon Castle? Are we really going to be demanding him to put the ball on the floor, or is he going to be more of a catch and shoot threat in the first place? So I think you kind of see my thought process there on the things of why he's so appealing. I think he has the highest ceiling. Does he reach that ceiling? I don't know. There I can
Mm,
definitely see a world where maybe Cody Williams, ends up being a better player than him. More of
mhm.
a having a bigger role on a team than him. But maybe not. We'll have to see how it all plays out. But with how young he is and all the stuff that I just mentioned, that's why I have him over Cody Williams and Dalton Connect. But those are also my other two choices. Everything you said about Cody Williams, I completely agree with. We talked about the shooting ability. Um, I see the Kawhi comparisons there. It's not just the cornrows, like it's in his play style as well.
Mm,
So I see the appeal there 100%. And I think honestly, he's coming into the league with a little bit more of a developed offensive game than Kawhi. Now, saying he's going to be Kawhi for sure is a stretch at this point. But I'm just saying I see the comparisons there for sure. And then Dalton Connect, the only thing that I want to mention that you didn't is another thing that people forget about him, SEC Player of the Year in his first year in the SEC, just
mhm.
came in and took over. I know he's older, but that's also, if you want to turn that into a pro and kind of look at this through an optimistic lens, that's a way of, drafting while simultaneously accelerating the timeline. But more importantly, he's going to provide shooting. He's going to be an upgrade at the three over Julian Champagny. And
Mhm.
for all of the defensive things that people can say about him, I think there's no better place than San Antonio for him to come develop that. But the other thing that's key here too, Ethan, is this draft is such a we're not sure what's going to happen. I mean, I think one of three of these guys are going to be here at this point, but I have seen some stuff where the Trailblazers have interest in Tijon. So maybe they swipe him up at number 7 right before us, and that takes that pick away. I've seen that not just recently, but I saw that like a month ago too. So that's something to keep an eye on with Tijon. He's kind of in that Bilal territory, where at the end of the draft process, he's kind of jumping into the top 10. Um, so it might not just be the Spurs that have their eye on him, but at the end of the day, Ethan, we have the same 3 guys.
Right, right. It's just the order in which we are high on them that's different. And I completely agree with everything that you said. At the end of the day, I wouldn't be mad if we took Tijon over Cody Williams or Tijon over Dalton Connect. It really doesn't matter as long as we get one of those guys in my eyes.
Yeah, same thing here for me.
It's something I didn't actually realize until just now. And this isn't an indictment on either of them, or this isn't an indictment on one, and it's not a necessarily like oh, he's better for the other guy. But Cody Williams is 6'6" and with a 7'1" wingspan, and Tijon is 6'9" with a 7'1" wingspan. So 3 inches shorter, but the same exact wingspan.
That's pretty crazy. And I've been seeing with shoes on, I think that Cody will probably be 6'7" on the floor.
Probably, probably.
These measurements are so like I wish that we could just have a concrete thing.
I
I'm not
would.
even dude, because I saw like on another video, like people were commenting like Julian Champagny's draft combine measurements was 6'6.185. Why are you calling him 6'9"? Because the San Antonio Spurs training camp roster from this year called him 6'9". Like, and the thing is they're not wrong either, because I'm sure that was his combine measurement, but it's just like, can we get some consistency?
He
Anyway,
probably grew too, if we're
that
being
right,
honest.
right, and I'm sure that's the case. But it's just like that's me and Ethan at the beginning of the year. We get a Spurs training camp roster, and it's funny because in years past, Keldon Johnson has been listed at 6'6". This year, he was listed at 6'5". I don't know where the changes come from, but usually we just try to go off the training camp roster at the beginning of the year, and
Mm,
that's what we roll with. Charles Bassey at some places is listed at 6'9". On the Spurs training camp roster, he's listed at 6'11". So it's like, I don't
mm.
even know, but we just try to go from the horse's mouth.
Right, right, right. Well said, Jude. Thank you.
I just wanted, because that is like a legit conversation. You know what I mean?
No, for
Anyways,
sure.
I see that a lot. But that pretty much wraps up our picks that we would take and our preferences there at 4 and 8, Ethan.